So if you were to see these three types of pollution output, which one do you think would be the worst? Personally, I think most people would choose the factory over here. It's spitting stuff out into the river. It's hurting the turtles that are over there. And it's also spewing out. Oh, God. So if you were to be asked, what pollutes the earth the most? A cow farm? Oh, I fucked it up again, dude. If you were to be asked, what pollutes the earth? If you were to be asked what pollutes the world the most, would you say A, this small cow farm over here, B, this meat factory over here, or is it this small little campfire with a person next to it? Now, realistically, many people would think, oh, it's a factory. It has smog going out into the air. It also is putting stuff into the environment, which affects the turtles that are over here. Well, you're not wrong that it does indeed pollute the environment. However, we then have to think about these cows. Now, these cows really ain't it for the environment. Now, what is pollution in general? Pollution in general is putting bad things into the environment that hurt it. Oh, for fuck! Pollution is putting poisonous or unnatural things into the. Pollution is adding a harmful or poisonous thing into the environment. This demonstration will be mostly focusing on air and water pollution, which is shown right here by this factory, although it is also demonstrated in other ways. Over here, we have a small livestock farm, which, when animals are killed, they release. When animals are. This presentation will be mostly focusing on air and water pollution, which can be displayed here by this factory, but is also present in other ways. For instance, this small cow farm. When cows are raised to be eaten and therefore killed, they release a lot of methane, which is much worse for the environment than, for instance, carbon emissions that are coming from over here in this factory, and as well from the small campfire. However, just because these things aren't necessarily good for the environment, however, this cow farm is significantly worse. Now, a way to curtail some of these emissions is by simply just reducing the supply and demand for meat. If you were to eat less meat, then there would be less requirement for meat in the industry, and therefore we reduce the emissions of the cows and therefore help our environment. This villager here is being a courteous individual and wants to help the environment. Therefore, instead of getting meat from this factory, fuck! This villager is doing the best he can to be courteous to his environment. Yes, he does need a campfire to, not freeze to death. However, just using a campfire to keep yourself warm is much less harmful than helping the meat industry get money and therefore kill the environment. Therefore, he has started his own small little farm right here. It is fully sustainable because it is only him using it and he harvests it by hand. For this particular example, if this cow farm didn't exist, then this meat packing place would not exist. And that is what is happening because this one villager, which is the only person that meatpacking factory is working for, is, being now having a plant-based diet, so he stops polluting the environment. So for this particular example, because this villager no longer is eating meat, then this cow farm that is over here no longer has a purpose to exist. Therefore, with this no longer having a purpose to exist, the meat factory also doesn't have a purpose to exist. Therefore, the amount of pollutants being put out into the environment is drastically reduced, now the only pollutant being this villager over here. However, with just some basic changes to his lifestyle, he has now stopped any emissions from coming out from this area. He has gotten a lamp to provide him light, and now he has a natural source of heat and a cooking source of lava because he found it, somewhere. With him doing this, there's no longer any unnatural pollutants going into the area. Of course, the lava is going to give off some, however, it's not nearly as bad as, this factory and that cow farm. So, because we know the villager no longer needs them. So, because the villager no longer eats meat, these cows over here are now allowed to roam free and live their own happy life, eating what they want and having a good life. Now, for this meat factory, on the other hand, it no longer really has a purpose. So, with it no longer serving a purpose, it is now allowed to be, destroyed. It seems they've messed up a little bit in destroying it, so this has to be done by hand. So this was my different take on. So this is my different take on how showing that. This was my different take on showing how pollutants affect the environment. So this is my different take on how pollutants affect the environment. Of course, I don't think, it'll only be one person. Thank you for watching my very cool, very funny, very high-tech presentation on how to not pollute the world, and yeah.